The oldest story in Western literature isn't about heroes. It's about a war that nobody needed to fight and nobody knew how to stop. Homer wrote it 3,000 years ago. It hasn't dated. The Trojan War has been going for 10 years by the time Homer picks up the story. The Greeks, the Achaeans as Homer calls them, has sailed across the Aegean to retrieve Helen, wife of the Spartan king Menelaus, who's run off to Troy with a prince called Paris. The Iliad's not, despite what you might expect, the story of the whole war. It's 21 days. Specifically, it's the story of what happens when Achilles, the greatest warrior on the Greek side, possibly the greatest warrior who's ever lived, decides that he's had enough and goes to sit in his tent. The reason is this: Agamemnon, the Greek commander-in-chief, has taken a war prize from Achilles, a woman named Briseis. A public humiliation in front of the whole army. Achilles is furious, so he withdraws. He will not fight. And because Achilles will not fight, the Greeks start losing badly. Then Patroclus dies. Patroclus is Achilles' closest companion, his dearest friend, possibly more than that, depending on how you read it. He's been watching the Greeks suffer from a distance, and he can't stand it any longer. He borrows Achilles' armour, rides out into battle to turn the tide, and is killed by Hector, Troy's greatest warrior. Achilles' grief is overwhelming. Raw, wailing, unconsolable grief. His mother, the sea nymph Thetis, comes to hold him while he weeps. He returns to battle. He tears through the Trojan army. He kills Hector. He ties Hector to his chariot and drags him around the walls of Troy in full view of Hector's parents and his wife for days. It's a cruel, ugly revenge, and Homer doesn't soften it. The Iliad ends with a scene that's almost unbearably moving. Hector's father comes to Achilles' tent alone at night to beg for his son's body back. The two men weep together. That's quite something. The Odyssey begins 10 years after Troy has fallen. Odysseus, cunning, eloquent, the man who came up with the wooden horse, is trying to get home. He's been trying for 10 years. The poem opens not with Odysseus but with his son Telemachus, who's 20 years old and has never met his father, and whose home has been taken over by 100-odd suitors, all competing for his mother Penelope's hand in marriage. She's been holding them off by weaving a funeral shroud for her father-in-law and promising to choose a husband when it's finished. Every night she unpicks the day's work. Meanwhile, Odysseus is marooned on a Mediterranean island with a goddess who is in love with him. What follows, when he finally gets moving, is a series of encounters that have become so embedded in culture that you already know them even if you've never read the poem. The Cyclops, one-eyed, enormous, is outwitted when Odysseus blinds him and escapes under the belly of a sheep. When the Cyclops asks his name, Odysseus has told him it's nobody, so when he screams for help, all he can shout is that nobody has hurt him, which, by the standards of a Bronze Age epic, is a pretty good joke. There are the Sirens, whose song lures sailors to their deaths. Odysseus has himself tied to the mast so he can hear them without being able to act on it. There's a visit to the underworld, where Odysseus meets the ghosts of the dead, including Achilles, who tells him that he'd rather be the lowest slave alive than the king of all the dead. Odysseus finally arrives home in disguise, unrecognised even by his own wife. He watches the suitors for a while, tests the ground, reveals himself at the worst possible moment for them, and there's a great deal of violence. He and Penelope are reunited. She tests him. She doesn't just take his word for it. He describes their bed to her, a bed he built himself from a living olive tree rooted in the ground so it cannot be moved. She knows then, that's him. What both poems understand, and what I think makes them last, is that the biggest questions don't resolve cleanly. What does glory cost? What do you owe the people who love you? What do you do with grief that has nowhere left to go? Homer doesn't answer these. He just holds them up and lets you look at them. And we're still asking those questions 3,000 years later. Thanks for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe to the Literary Buffet for the 20-minute deep dive and the 45-minute sleep story version of Homer's epics, and 5-minute versions of other classic literary tales.